Hi guys, welcome to another video tutorial with me, Claris. In this video, we are going to be using the MeiLaing solid watercolors for us to just freestyle and do a cute little bouquet of flowers. I haven't finished swatching my colors as yet, but we're gonna get started anyways because I've done a swatch video for this. I'm gonna link that in the description in case y'all are interested. And really quickly before I begin, letting you know that I am using my Baohong watercolor paper and Princeton number 4 to paint this on a whim, going with the flow sort of bouquet. So before we begin, don't forget to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button if you enjoy watercolor fun floral videos. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to start off with doing anemones. Now for anemones, I like to start off with doing the center first. And for that, we're going to use a Payne's Gray, which I know is right here. And so I'm just getting my Payne's Gray directly from here. And we're going to dip the tip of the brush in water just to get it really watered down. And we're starting off with doing our centers. So just really roughly creating an oval shape. Feel free to leave a little bit of white space in between if you need or like. And then I'm going to do a quick, rough little dotted line, not dot, a dotted line. And then once that is done, I'm going to put this brush aside. Always helps to have paper towel as well, guys, as I always mention. And then we're taking our number 6. And let's see, anemones come in different colors. So I'm going to use more of a pink, which is right there. And I don't have a lot of space on my palette, but I do have an area where I was mixing pink. And the pink I'm using over here is the Peach Blossom. So here we go. Making sure our brush has decent amount of water. We're going to pull and create light little petals like this. When you see the gray blending in, just take your brush and kind of help it blend in a little bit better with your petals and you should be fine. Continuing on over here, we are touching that dotted outline that I created. And this really does help with blending and giving it more of that loose look, which is what we love. At least if you're on my channel, this is what you love, because that's what I love. All right, so, and then at this point, we've got decent amount of petals. I believe like 6 is the ideal amount, but if you have 5, that's okay, because there's a lot of overlapping petals in the actual flower. This is what I'm talking about. When you see this, just dab your brush and swipe it off, dab it onto the paper towel, swipe it off, dab onto paper towel. Okay, simple enough. Don't worry too much about it, but if you like the bloom and you want to keep that in, that also works. So now we got our light, loose little petal. We're now going to go in with the number 4. And I'm going to get the next color, which is the, I believe that's rose red. Is this rose red? No, this is, sorry, the base was rose pink. This is peach blossom. You want to allow this to dry a tad bit before we use this to get some nice lines happening. But let's just test to see. Here's how you find out if it's too damp or too dry. So this isn't too bad. I've got water pooling at the edges of my petals, so it's kind of just sitting there. You can see what that looks like. But from the start, because we wiped off color from the insides, it's not too bad. So what I'm going to do is just go with the flow. And if this is happening, I'm just going to blend it in, kind of like how we lifted color, right? And get some texture happening into our petals or into our flower as a whole. Again, we're keeping this loose, we're keeping this fun. It doesn't need to look super realistic. I think it looks pretty as is right now, so go with that. Now, another tip or trick, I would say, when you're painting, if you see the collecting of color at the edge, start from the out and then go in. That had too much water there, but this is what I mean. Start from the out, then go in. And this is where being able to have some brush control comes in handy, because you're able to then use a number 4 and get really nice thin lines. Now it doesn't have to look consistent throughout. So you can have some areas with more, some with less, but the idea is to give it that nice texture. All right, so we allow this to dry before we go back in to do any more details. But I think it's safe to say we can do about 2 more. So let's do 2 more. So this is what they ended up looking like. I did one kind of facing upward a little bit, or tried to. And so now let's do some, because we're going to let this dry for a bit, let's do a little bit of background flowers in the meantime. So for this, I would love to do a little bit of yellow. So I'm going to take some, I believe this is natural yellow, which is like a yellow, whatchamacallit, which is like almost like a yellow ochre, I would say. And we're going to use that as the darker tone. We're going to take a little bit of our, let me see, I just got to look at the names. Permanent Yellow Deep, which is like a orangey mango color, which I think would complement this really pretty or lovely. And let's just mix that here. Okay, so for these flowers, we're just going simple and little clusters like. So using the same brush, doing a regular 5-petal flower, something like that, okay? I'm gonna take a little bit more water on my brush to create simple flowers like that. Keep it loose, keep it fun. Have them touching one another. This way you get like a nice bleed happening in there. And you want to have this process done, or this set of flowers done, fairly quickly, so that we can then go in with the darker yellow that we have planned and just drop that in before this dries off. Okay, so let's go in for that darker yellow. I had some there, have some here. And I'm going to drop that in right here and watch how this flower just naturally unfolds. Quick little movements or brush strokes, and voila, we've got some pretty flowers. Now I also like to have a different variation happening. So I'm going to get some of the New Gamboge, which is also a nice pretty yellow. Drop that in here as well. I'm having some done a little bit further away. And now we can extend these pretties a little higher up on the page, just to kind of give it that diagonal tie in. Doesn't have to be too many, could be just a few, like 3 for instance, and maybe just have some peeping from below. And what I like to call fluffing by just kind of adding dabs of yellow. Okay, something like that. And same thing, we're taking the darker yellow, dropping that in the center, watching that bloom into our flower, open it up nicely, dropping that in these flowers too, because we didn't. And so as you can imagine, time is of the essence in terms of getting that pretty bloom. However, having said that, if you are putting this in and it's not blooming because it's dried up, that's okay. That's totally fine. You can just do a wet on dry kind of painting. Okay, so again, we're using the number 4, and I would like leaves and stems, that is. I'm going to use some of my olive green, which is a beautiful olive. I'm going to get a little bit of my Hooker's green and mix that up, and even mix a little bit of indigo in with it because I like how that looks. Get more olive. Feel free to use a simple green if you're not much into mixing. And let's start off with joining these cuties first. So you're seeing these blooms happening in there. Remember what I said about lifting. So you can just take a brush that's clean and lift off the green. In hindsight, maybe waiting a little bit longer before adding stems to these would have been a bit helpful to stop such a massive flare. But it also kind of gives you that nice little feel for background loose leaves happening, or maybe even like that switch in color within the flowers itself. So, you know, pick and choose what you like and go with that. Okay, so we've done it for this. Let's do it for this one at the top. Just be extra mindful about that little bloom happening. Simple like that, nothing too complicated. And then we're going to add leaves to it as well. So while this is drying up, let's get a little bit more of the olive green, mix that in so that I get a slightly different variation of color. And we're dropping in stems for our anemones. These stems can be a tad thicker. So if you want to use a slightly thicker brush, sure, or if you just want to do what I'm doing right here, that also works. I'm going to do one happening right here for this guy. And then another one for this one here. Although this seems like it would probably fall here, overlapping our yellow flower stems, but that's okay. So liking how this is turning out, let's add a couple of leaves. I don't mind adding some in between like this. We're just keeping the leaves simple. Something like that. I didn't have a lot of space, so that's why I ended up doing something simple like that. You can extend just to kind of fill up the bottom as well, and do something like this. Now I'm doing this because this is my creative judgment. You can follow along or feel free to go with the flow and do what you think works better for your composition. I always like to encourage you guys to do your own thing. So here you go. Because I'm showing you techniques, I'm sparking some ideas, giving you some inspo. And yeah, my hope is that you kind of run with the idea of what suits you. And this way you find your voice, or let's just say find your design style in expressing yourself in watercolor. All right, so we're gonna do a couple more leaves happening. Feel free to fill up huge gaps like this with leaves too. That is always helpful. You can even overlap on top of the anemone, and that just adds like a pretty unexpected, what's the word I'm looking for? Not really unexpected, I guess, but more, adding more depth, giving you foreground, background kind of elements in your loose style of painting. Okay, so we've got some there. I'm going to do a little bit over here. We're going to stick with the small leaves just to keep this simple and fun for everyone. That rhymes. Can do a little bit of overlapping over here too. So just mix along and add as many little tendrils, not tendrils, these are not tendrils, baby leaves as possible. Overlapping is totally fine. I think it'll give you a great idea of how watercolor overlaps, especially for those who are new and just starting out and are afraid to go over things. This is a wonderful little find. So let's get back to our anemones. By now they're completely dried up. We're going in for more of our Payne's gray, and this time we are going to just do another layer over, and then we're doing little lines, rough lines all around. We're not covering up all the white space, so just something like this. And then we do little dots all around. And voila, the anemone is pretty much done. This is just a very loose rendition of it. So we're not fixating too much on showing the separate leaves and such. I'm just going to continue doing the others and probably make this a time lapse so you guys are not sitting here watching. But during this time lapse, go ahead and do your own. So you're also, because I'm sure by now yours has also dried up. So go for it. All right, so here we go. This is what it looks like. Very, very pretty. The colors speak for themselves. Very loose, which is what we're looking for. Some beautiful bleeds in between. Not a lot of detail, but when you put it down, you totally get the idea of what this is. So hope you guys enjoyed the techniques. Feel free to use these techniques for other flowers and explore as you continue in your watercolor journey. And thank you so much again for joining. Remember to hit the like button and subscribe button if you enjoy fun videos like this. And if you do end up doing this, I would love to see it. So do tag me on social media. I've listed my details below. Thanks guys for watching, and we'll chat soon. Bye.